During the past 4 lectures on selective inventory management, we have discussed in detail the possible types of the classification, the systems for inventory items which are being followed by many organizations, and why selective inventory management is needed. Now, during this lecture session, I am going to discuss 2 other important the classification scheme. The first one is the so-called SDE analysis of classification, and second one is XYZ analysis. Now, what we are going to discuss, that is for both the analysis, their basic characteristics, issues and advantages, particularly at which condition, which classification scheme you need to follow. So, advantages of selective inventory management is known to you, already we have discussed, and certain the key points you need to remember why you propose one or more such classification schemes. So, these the key points also will be discussing as the concluding remarks. Now, let us talk about SDE analysis for classification of inventory items. We have already discussed in detail with a few numerical examples 4 specific the classification scheme. First one is known as HML analysis, based on the unit price of the item. And the second one is well-known ABC analysis, based on annual usage value, and you attach importance to a particular item based on its the annual usage value. The third one we have discussed, that is VED analysis, based on the criticality of the item. And the criticality depends on what is its functional value in relation to the concerned products or the end items. So, while you carry out say VED analysis, you must have a thorough understanding of the design of the product, particularly what are the main the components or the sub-assemblies, which the functions of which determine the functional value of the product. So, this analysis we have discussed, and then the next one we have discussed also, that is FSN analysis. And what we have mentioned that ABC analysis, FSN analysis and VED analysis, these 3 analysis or 3 types of classifications are very, very common, and they must be these 3 classification scheme must be used simultaneously. Now, over and above this classification scheme which you are supposed to use, many a time you go for SDE analysis. So, let me first explain in detail the method you employ to carry out such an analysis. Now, in SDE analysis, the classification is based on an inventory item's importance in respect of its availability. So, as we know that A stands for the scarce item, mostly imported, and the D stands for difficult to procure, okay, and E stands for easy to procure. So, these 3 types, so all the items are classified under these 3 categories. So, here the importance is defined in respect of or with respect to its availability. as inventory of an item, direct or indirect. So what is a direct item? That means the item which is required to produce the product. Okay, that means this item is one of the components listed in the product's bill of materials or the product structure. But you also must be dealing with the indirect items. That means the indirect items are those items which are required to run the production systems. Okay, so the item could be direct or indirect, and these items are needed as and when required, and there must be continuity of supply of the items to a production systems. Availability is considered an important aspect. So, as we have mentioned that your inventory management should be such that the availability of an inventory item must be guaranteed, and as well as the continuity of supply. So, it's not that the item is to be made available only for a specific time period. That means the continuity of supply has to be maintained, and availability means whether to what extent you are able to maintain the continuity of supply. So this point we have highlighted here. Non-availability means no stock. Okay, and hence under stock or out of stock situation may occur, and corresponding effect of disruption in production systems or in maintenance and service activities of an organization. So non-availability is a serious problem, because it will not only affect negatively the production system, but it also affect the service systems or the maintenance systems. And as you must be aware that for carrying out the maintenance activities, you need many kinds of spare items, and so obviously when we classify the items, so one such type of item is referred to as MRO items. Okay, so availability of MRO item is also very important and very crucial for running a production system. For carrying out SD analysis, we used to define first the each category. Okay, for carrying out we need to define first each category. First one is what is a scarce item? S stands for scarce, mostly imported. These items are considered scarce, mostly imported from another country, like raw materials. Like if you go for producing alloy steel, now the nickel is to be imported from say foreign countries, say USA. So there are many examples of say the scarce or the imported items, and these items may be so the important parts of the components which a foreign company can only supply. Okay, like when you get the bill of material for your product, so you get a list of items or sub assemblies to be procured from outside, or to be manufactured in-house. Now, as we have found that 40 to 70% of such items you need to procure from outside. So you must select the outside suppliers. Later on, when you discuss the purchasing systems or purchasing management, we will come to know the details of the purchasing procedures to be employed for different types of items. So it is very common for many countries, for many organizations, to get many items, the group of items, and important items, critical items from a foreign supplier. So These items are considered to be scarce or imported items, and without these components, products cannot be produced. Okay, these items may be very expensive. Okay, so these are the characteristics of the scarce items, and under what condition you go for importing an item. So next, the category of item is the D, or the difficult to procure. Now these items are considered difficult to procure in the sense that even if they are not imported, they are to be procured from a source located in another region of the country. Okay, so supposing your company, your plant is located in the eastern part of the country, and the item is to be procured from a company or from a say the manufacturing the plant which is located in say southern region of the country. So so it may be, so these items may be considered as difficult to procure. So and for procurement of such items, special rules and regulations need to be complied with, for which a cumbersome procedure is to be followed. So this also could be the case, and you need to define it in explicit terms, that why you are saying that it's difficult to procure. Either the location could be a problem, means it is to be procured from a far off say the place, or while you try to procure such items, because of many reasons, the stringent the rules and regulations are in place, and you have to follow or you have to comply with all these the requirements as per these rules and regulations stipulated by the state or some other controlling agencies. So in all likelihood, the purchasing procedure may be very cumbersome, and that's why you may conclude that such items are difficult to procure. Now, in the last category, we have items which are referred to as easy to procure items, or E items. These items are considered easy to procure in the sense that they can be procured from local markets. Okay, mostly those items for which a number of sources are available, and simple purchase procedures like blanket order or yearly order systems may be preferred. That means what you find that the many or the majority of the suppliers are dealing with easy to procure items. They are already listed in your say approved list of vendors or the suppliers, and once the price is negotiated for a particular item, you can go for the blanket order or yearly order systems. That means for say suppose it's a yearly order systems, that means for the given item the price remains fixed for 1 year, and as per your requirements they are supposed to the supply the items in required quantities. Once the items are classified as per the above stated norms, so I hope that you have understood very clearly the definitions of these the three categories of items, and why the grouping is necessary, or this classification is necessary. So what we are supposed to do, that means once you define each category of the item, then you check the total number of items in each category. Okay, how many items you have in each category. What we say that maybe say 10 to 20% of the items, or maybe 30% of the items are maybe in the scarce case. That is one case, the scarce category. Whereas in another situation, or in another plant or another organizations, it may be say in the scarce category just the 5% of the total items. So what you need to do, that means you need to strengthen your international purchasing system, and particularly the import-export cell of your say of your purchase department must be very strong, and there must be a foolproof the procedure of purchasing such items. Okay. For a standard or the fixed product mix, now this point you just make a note. For a standard or the fixed product mix, this analysis may be carried out once a year. Okay, because your product mix is not changing over the years, so it has already kind of withstood the test of time, and there is a fixed or substantial market share for each of the products listed in your product mix, and you may say for the next the few years, say almost the demand is assured. So under such cases, what you do, that means this SD analysis, you just do it once a year, the analysis, and the change in the number of items of each category depends on a number of factors. Obviously, like flexibility in the process plan. Suppose the product mix remains same, but what is changing is the process plan. So that may be the case. Initially, when you start producing a particular product, you had to adopt a particular process plan. Okay, because of many reasons, but that means you may be following a particular manufacturing process or manufacturing procedures because of the constraints of specific types of the production systems or the machineries. So now what you have proposed a flexible production system, you have implemented that. So obviously there could be alternate process plans for the same product. So flexibility, if there is flexibility in process plan, now it will have an impact on the number in each category. Change in supplier base. Okay, so it may so happen that previously a particular item is to be imported from outside. Today you get another company in the country which can supply the same item. So the change in supplier base that you need to that could be one of the factors, and the change in the purchasing policy. Okay, so this is also very important. So there could be many factors which may affect the number in each category, S, D or E category. For a frequently changing product mix, that means as far as product mix is concerned, the organization has not yet reached a stability, or it has not become a stable system. Now this analysis needs to be carried out at least twice a year, because the product mix is changing, and so also the types of items to be procured from outside. The purchasing systems or procedure being followed for scarce and difficult to procure items are to be made as simple as possible to streamline the purchase process. So this is very important. In the subsequent the lecture sessions, we'll be discussing the details of the purchasing management. So we'll refer to this particular aspect. Now, what do you try to do? That means while you streamline the purchase the process, make sure that there are minimum number of control points and minimum lead time. Okay, that means the procurement lead time should be as minimum as possible for the scarce and the difficult to procure items. Now this is very challenging in majority of the cases. Usually the scarce and difficult to procure items are procured in quantities sufficient to meet yearly demand with these fluctuations considered. That means as the purchasing procedure, particularly for the imported items, are cumbersome, and you need to follow the entire procedures with several control points meticulously. So it is in majority of the cases, it is a time consuming process. So that's why what you try to do, that means you try to procure such items in large quantities, so that at least the yearly demand you can fulfill with one order. That means what you try to have against one purchase order, you try to get the entire quantity. That means one supply. Multiple supplies may be difficult, so against one order, one supply. Okay, so that rule is normally followed. SDE analysis is priority if the proportion of items in bill of materials or BOM that are to be purchased from inside is very high, say 70 to 80%, and manufacturing strategy is manufacture to order or assemble to order. Okay, so already we have mentioned this in the previous lecture sessions, that there could be many types of marketing strategies. So one such strategy is manufacture to order, and another strategy is assemble to order. So for such cases, definitely you go for SDE analysis. And what is a bill of material? Bill of material is essentially a list of items or numbers and the types of items, including sub-assemblies, you are required to say purchase or manufacture in-house to produce 1 unit of your output. Output may be the end item or the product. So if the number of E-items is substantial, easy to procure items, computer-to-computer purchase systems can be initiated with significant positive control on inventory and lead time. Okay, so these are the two important aspects. One is to what extent you can control the order quantity, okay, so that the average inventory is at an acceptable level. This is one objective. And the second objective of any inventory management system is to control the procurement lead time. So the main advantages of SDE analysis are as follows. Just the listing the main advantages: minimum shortages in scarce items, ensuring control on manufacturing cycle and throughput time. You know what we have already referred to the throughput time as well as the manufacturing cycle. The next one is adequate control on inventory investment if imported goods or items are needed in large quantity and expensive. Efficient purchase management systems with a strong import-export cell playing an important role in material substitution. So these aspects also we'll discuss later on. Particularly two important topics you may note down at this point. One is the purchasing management, and the second one is the value engineering or value analysis technique with material substitutions. Development of alternative process plans with the minimum number of imported components is a possibility. Now the next, before we conclude the sessions, let us discuss XYZ analysis, and this analysis also is required in many instances, in many occasions. Now let me discuss the basic characteristics, issues and advantages of such an analysis. In XYZ analysis, the classification is based on an inventory item's importance. Again, you are defining the importance of an item, and this importance of an item in terms of its average inventory. This way you define. That means if the average inventory is very high, you say this is considered to be very, very important. Okay, And obviously the average inventory you calculate or you estimate during a period of time, usually for in a month or in a year. Okay. So the result of the analysis is indicative of to what extent, this is very, very important. That means that this result is indicative of to what extent the objective of minimum inventory investment is achieved for an item. Now this is one of the goals of inventory management systems. We have already mentioned a number of goals or a number of objectives of inventory management systems in during week 1 lecture sessions. So if you carry out XYZ analysis, that means one of the objectives, that is the minimum inventory investment, this particular objective, it will be easier for you to achieve. In respect of say the minimum inventory investment, the items are so average inventory investment, the items are categorized as X, Y and Z items. Now we define each category of items as follows. X items, these items with very high average inventory level, that you have to define what is relatively speaking, what is very high average inventory level, and these items with very high average inventory level are considered important problem, and it is essential that appropriate and adequate improvement measures are to be taken for reducing the inventory level. This is obvious. That means you need to either to change of say the inventory policies, or say inventory policies or inventory control systems, or even if you follow the same inventory policy, what you can do to reduce this average inventory level, that is, you may change the parameter values of a given inventory control systems. For such items, excess stock determination is a must. Now what is Y items? These items with high inventory level are considered less important, and it is natural to take preventive and corrective measures for inventory level reduction. Now what are the Z items? These items with adequate inventory level are not considered critical, and the procedure being used and adopted needs to be continued. Okay. Once the items are classified as per above stated norms, the total number of items in each category is known. The number of in categories determined by subjective judgment. So this point already we have analyzed. Now the reasons of high inventory levels for both X and Y items are manifold. That means when you carry out such an analysis, you will come to know what are the possible reasons of having a very high inventory level of such items. In a highly dynamic business environment, the possible reasons are as follows. I am just mentioning the reasons. Later on, we'll take up all these issues in a systematic manner. One is the redesign of the product, that could be the reason. Change in production methods, reduction in product demand, okay. New technological innovation, okay. Forecast errors, this is also maybe a serious problem. Excess purchase of items, okay. That means sometimes you become very, very aggressive, okay, in purchasing the items. So what you create through this say the attitudes, you may create excess inventory. Record keeping errors, this is also a possibility, and introduction of new products. Now the excess stock in respect of X and Y items need to be determined following specific or standard procedure with its implementation with management information system support. So this point is to be noted. Later on we discussed the MRP systems and other variants of MRP systems. We will refer to this aspect. Any amount in stock greater than order quantity and safety stock is considered excess. So this way we define. Excess stock problems can be addressed by using a number of liquidation alternatives. So these are the possible liquidation alternatives. Then how to dispose of these excess stock. Circulation within the company, returning to the suppliers. If this is feasible, you go for it. Direct sales to other firms if you check for its feasibility. Sales to the employees or sale or auction to the public. The analysis is essential for proper inventory management and must be done as a priority by management. Many advantages running inventory and production service control systems of organization with adequate and minimum inventory investment. Total cost of production in the long run is significantly reduced. Now, thus before I close this session, I will just highlight a few key points. In ABC and all other classification schemes, the inventory items are classified into 3 categories on the basis of their importance characterization. Items in each category are required to be identified, their inventory control systems to be known and evaluated with respect to a number of performance measures. The borderline inventory items, this point is to be noted, in any classification scheme are to be identified and specific rules are to be prescribed for their categorization. Both objective and subjective analysis are recommended for prescribing the classification schemes. So with this, discussions, I conclude these sessions on selective inventory management. Thank you.